All right, 5.6, simplifying radicals without a calculator. Yesterday we used a calculator. We know how to do square roots, cube roots, and any number of roots on our calculator. Now we're going to do it without a calculator. In order to do these, it's easiest if we remember this list of numbers. So square numbers, 1, 4, 9, 16. Now how am I making this list? Well, 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5. What you need to be able to understand is you know how to take the square root of all these numbers. So the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 64 is 8. So that's what we're trying to recognize. So what we want to do is look for one of these numbers in our problems, and then they'll make the problem easier. This is a little bit easier than making factor trees. Factor trees will also work, so if you struggle with this, we can go to factor trees and see if that helps you. Example, the square root of 8. Well, I know that the square root of 8 is the same thing as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, because 4 times 2 is 8. The square root of 4 is 2. I don't know the square root of 2, and it can't be broken down, so the answer is 2 root 2. Number 2, the square root of 50. What number in our list goes into 50? 25. So the square root of 25 times the square root of 2 is 5 root 2. Now some people will get really good at this and they won't have to write down the middle step. That's good. The square root of 72. Most people will say that that's 9 times 8. Okay, well we know that 9 is 3, so they'll write 3 root 8. But that's not done, because you should recognize that there's a 4 inside of that 8. So that's 4 times 2, so that's 3 times 2 times root 2, which equals 6 root 2. So really, if you pulled a 6 out, then what was that 6 underneath? 6 times 6 would be 36, and 36 times 2 is 72. So you could have gone root 36 root 2 and then gone to your answer as well. But most people don't recognize 36 and 2 for 72. They recognize 9 and 8. And that's okay. You just need to break the 8 down some more. Number 4, 2 times the square root of 300. Well, that would be 2 times the square root of 100 times the square root of 3 would be one way to break it down. The square root of 100 is 10, so that would be 20 root 3. Now on number 5, we don't have a calculator, so we don't want to multiply those together. Besides the fact, what's the square root of 49? Well, it's 7, so you've got negative 2 times 7 times, now break this down, what number goes into 24? 4 times 6. So that's negative 14 times 2 times the square root of 6. That's negative 28 times the square root of 6. So it's important that you just break them down. It's easiest if you find numbers that are in the list. You don't have to, but it's easiest. Okay, something else that would be nice to remember. Can you do the problems backwards? If I give you 2 root 3 as the answer, and I say, well, what was that as the original problem? Well, if you took 2 out front, it had to have been originally the square root of 4, the square root of 3, which would be the square root of 12. So if you're going to do the problems backwards, then I know for sure you know what you're doing. Let me give you another one. If the answer is 5 root 2, then you know to get the 5, it had to have been the square root of 25 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 50. So I would say in order to get a 5 out front, it had to be a 25 on the inside. Okay? Another way to think about it is, in order to get out of this house, you have to be a nice number, a number in our list, or you have to have a partner. Okay, now you know 5 has a partner because here it's 5 times 5. So he has a partner, so he can come out of the house. That might make more sense when we get to the letters here. All right, how do you do letters? Okay. Remember, you're trying to figure out what times what is a squared. So a times a. So I told you that if you had a partner, you could get out. So if there's two a's, and this is a square, or the square root of a squared, then that answer is simply a. Okay, what I really think is the easiest is if you just divide these numbers. So 2 goes into 2 one time. So over here, this little imaginary 2 is not written, if you might want to write them in. So 2 goes into 3 one time. So 1 comes out, then you have an extra a left inside. Or think about the partner rule. If you say you have to have a partner to get out, we have the square root of a times a times a. Well, these guys can be partners, so they can come out as a single, and then you still have a leftover a inside. If you use the division thing, you think 2 goes into 3 one time, 1 times 2, with a remainder of 1. So this is how many come out, and this is how many stay inside. I think I usually use the division rule. So I would say 2 goes into 5 how many times? Twice. So 2 of them come out. If 2 of them come out, how many had to be on the inside for 2 to come out? 4. So there would be how many left? Just 1. Or 2 goes into 5 twice with a remainder of 1. So 2 come out and 1 stays in. And it doesn't matter if there's multiple letters, you just do that division multiple times. Let's go. So 2 goes into 2 once, none left over. 2 goes into 5 twice with 1b left over. 2 goes into 13 6 times with 1c left over. Notice, if these numbers are even, they're all going to get out. If they're odd, you're going to have a leftover one because he doesn't have a partner. If you partner everybody up, these guys don't have partners, so they have to stay underneath. And finally, what if you put numbers and letters all together? Okay, I simplify the number first and then I do the letter. So the square root of 8 would be the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. So this 4 turns into a 2, so he's on the outside, and that 2 is stuck underneath. Now do the letters. If you have a 2 up here, 2 goes into 2 once. Nobody's left over in the A's. Do the B's. 2 goes into 5 twice, and you have 1 B left over. All right, next one, 32. The square root of 16 times the square root of 2 is 4 root 2. Now do the letters. If you put a 2 here, does 2 go into 1? No, A doesn't have any partners, so the A has to stay underneath there. How many sets of partners here? 2. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 9 4 times. That uses 8 of the C's and leaves us with 1 C left over. All right, what happens if it's not a square root, it's a cube root? Okay, so now they changed this from a square root to a cube root. Well, we have to remember our cube list instead of our square list. So that's 1 times 1 times 1, 2 times 2 times 2, 3 times 3 times 3, 4 times 4 times 4, and 5 times 5 times 5. And they don't usually get much bigger than that. So now we're thinking about this list. So if you're going to break this 24 up, you'd say it's the cube root of 8 times the cube root of 3. The cube root of 8 is 2, and the 3 stays under. The letters are done the same way. 3 goes into 4 one time with 1 left over. 3 goes into 6 twice. with no leftovers. And 3 goes into 8 twice. That uses 6, so there would be 2 left underneath. So instead of needing a partner to get out, you need 3 of them to get out for a cube root.